Hello. Just a disclaimer, if you already know how to draw a window and you just want to figure out how to do the parametric variations, like creating a closed, open, or a partially open window, all based off of one design that you've created, just go and skip ahead to about 23 minutes and you'll be able to see that portion. Otherwise, feel free to increase the speed of the video. And if you like it, go and like that for me. And if you have any comments, drop them below. And if you have any ideas for future videos.
All right, thank you for joining in for another video. Today we're going to be going over parametric window modeling. So as you saw in our last video, we created some windows, but for this instance, we're going to take those windows and then we're going to design them in such a way that we can allow one model to then have three variations. So we have a closed window, an opened window, and a partially opened window. And so as you can see from our previous building and previous videos, I've made quite a bit of work done. I set up a ladder, additional window frames. We also have, as we move this over here, some gooseneck lights in the front. Those prove to be more frustrating than I'd like, but they're somewhat done. And then I created a little overhang. I wanted to get a little fancy and kind of push the boundaries of the things that I'm able to do. And so I created an additional door, 5 paneling door. That's also one body piece, so that can be 3D printed and just inserted into a wood structure, a wall. I wanted to make some type of drain for the flat roof, and just kind of start learning how to do that. Next, we also did the vent on the outside, and then there will be more variations of that to come in the future. So at this point, let's switch over to a new building so it's not so uh, cumbersome. And so we're going to create one of those parametric windows right here on the side, or on the back of the windows over here. So let's get into it. Let's go ahead and create a sketch. I'm going to go on the back face of this. And then I need to project the opening so I can design the window off of that. So we'll go to create, we'll go to project, click the outside, hit OK. You can see that we have the purple line when I go over one of the points on the corner. Otherwise, you can see the purple circle around the opening. It also did it for the entire face. And so anytime there's a hole, it's going to project that. So we can reference it for this sketch, which is really important. I know that it's accurate. So at this point, we're going to go to offset. I'm going to offset that line. And so I want it to be the other direction because I'm doing the trim. So I can hit flip, or I can change this to a negative number or a positive number, depending on what pops up. Normally it's a positive number. If you want it to go the opposite direction, it needs to be negative, or click flip. At this point, I've been doing negative 0.75 or 0.75 for the trim. I'm 3D printing some parts right now, so that may change depending on how it looks at HO scale, but that's the beginning piece. So that's the trim. I need to make the part that fits inside the window because I want these to insert and I want it to be easy. That's the whole goal of this, is building as many structures as possible efficiently. And so I think this to be one of the most efficient ways. So we're going to do an offset. It's going to be 0.5 millimeters. Once again, I'm kind of prototyping this, so in the future you might see me do different um, measurements, and that's just because something might have worked better. So now we have our trim, we have our piece that fits inside. These are both of those are going to be connected as one piece, and then we're going to create this inside area. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a line. It's going to be a construction line, so I click that button over there. I'm going to go down this line until I see the triangle. That triangle with the X means that it's at the midpoint. I'm going to go over. You can see the right angle box. It says it's at 0 degrees. It's exactly what I want. So that's the opening of the window. And then next, what I want to do is create a centered piece off of this with a rectangle. So centered rectangle. And the reason for this is I'm trying to split the window up and create two different sides. You can see that our current problem is that it's a dotted line. I need to uncheck the construction, and there you go. I have a solid line, so it's going to be a point I can reference, or actually utilize and extrude. So I'm going to do 1 millimeter off that, and then just the opening. As you can see, I have a little blue lines here, and I don't like blue lines. They need to be constrained. So I'm going to go up here to constraints coincident. I'm going to make sure it hovers over just that blue line. I did the whole thing. I don't want that. So I'm going to select it again. Unselect those. Make sure it didn't select the other one. Yeah. And then I'm going to select this line that goes vertical, or actually I can just do a point. So I coincident the line to this center line, construction line point, and now it's going to stick to that line. This edge, the side of the rectangle will not go right or left. It'll stick to that point because of the coincident constraint. So constraints can be helpful. At this point, I also need the kind of framing of those windows. And so what we can do is offset this one more time, change it to 1. And so now we have our inside of our windows. This is also not completely broken up yet because this construction line, I actually want it to be a main line, a reference line, which is super helpful. Hit escape just to get off everything being selected. So we have a lot of things going on, and I promise you we will get through this. So currently we have the outside line, which is highlighted currently. That is the trim. We have the next inner rectangle. That is our insert into the opening of our structure. The next one we have is going to be the framing of the window. So we have this top portion comes down into this square here, and then the bottom. So this right here is our top portion of the first window. The second window is the bottom portion. So that's completely constrained. Now we can trim some things to try and make stuff look a little nicer, if you will. So we could try and come down here and trim this little corner spot. Come over here, trim that corner. Same up here with the top ones. And so we're trying to create this as one kind of structure. Trim that one, and that one. And so now when you, let's just constrain these real quick, or sketch dimension. Middle line to there should be 0.5 millimeter. From here to the main line should be 0.5 millimeter. So now when we hit escape and we highlight, that entire window is selected. So we have now have the bottom window and the top window. So you like to, the recommended thing that I've seen from many YouTubers who are much better at this than I am is that you want to sketch everything and draw everything in one sketch as much as possible without it being too cumbersome. So obviously there's reasons not to do that, but for this particular instance, that's what we're going to do. So now I want to create the um, options for the various grid on the top or bottom window. So for this, I'm going to go to sketch, construction line. I'm going to find this midpoint. I'm going to go straight up. And then I need to find the middle. I'm going to also come over here, take the midpoint, take it across. I don't know why it's going degrees. I want it to be just 0 degrees. I want it to be completely square. This one didn't feel like it. So let's go ahead and hit escape, select that line, delete, and we'll do the same thing. And you might be asking, why am I going from the middle and only doing one side of it as opposed to just going like from left all the way to the right? The reason for that is I want to use the midpoints of these various items to my advantage. Sorry, this is going to drive me nuts. I see another little line here that's not coincidented or constrained. So I just want to constrain that. Perfect. All right. And then at this point, we're going to put one line down the center, another line or setup down the midpoint of the right one, another section down the left point of that one, and then we're just going to do one rectangle all the way across. So let's go to create, and center rectangles are one of my favorite. We're going to just set it up here. Once again, I have construction on. You can hit X or click the button over there. And I'm going to set these to 0.3. I think they look okay. We can always change it in the future if we want to. That's the best part with parametric. And then once again, another rectangle centered. Come over here to center point and 0.3 for our width. And then we'll do it one more time. Come over here to the midpoint, all the way down, 0.3. And those are all by 0.5. And then I want one across the center area here from the center point. Bring it over to the edge. And then 0.3, enter. You can see I have a lot of blue lines, so we got to fix those. Now, one thing I could do is make this all one body and then mirror it down. That's possible. The other thing you could do, just to go on a small rabbit trail here, is that the zero point 0.3, we could actually make that a specific parameter. So if we went to modify, change parameters, you can see I have door height, window width, and floor height. These are all specific things that instead of typing a value, a number value, you can type in the words, that parameter, and then you can change parameters later to affect that. And then you can also set up the actual inside window piece that you're working on to work off of that. So that can get complicated. It can be easy. I like to keep all my windows and doors widths, everything the same. That way I know when I make an item like a window, a door, it's always going to fit. So if we wanted to play around with these though, I could say grid width, and I could adjust all of those on the fly. So um, just as a FYI. So let's start constraining some of these things and see why it's giving us some problems. When you can use coincidence or constraints up here, not necessarily coincident, but constraints, that typically is the recommended method from what I hear. And so let's select those lines, and wouldn't you know it, that one constraint constrained the rest of them all. I don't have another blue line. That's awesome. All right. Not as in, did not plan for that. So it's just a happy little accident. I do want these not to be trimmed off. So I'm not going to go up here to trim and remove those, because sometimes the freedom of being able to inset this into the actual frame itself and not have it just flush, I think looks better. So once again, we just need to do the same thing at the bottom. Find the triangle, find that one, go halfway, and make sure it says, I don't know why it's being funny, but I want it to be exactly 90 degrees. And actually, I don't care about 90 degrees. I just wanted it to be, interesting. Last time I made these windows, it didn't give me any of this nonsense. So we'll say 180 degrees. Sure, okay. That's fine. And as you can see, some of those blues pop back up. Huh. It's not going to hurt anything if you don't leave them constrained, but it might cause issues. So I think if we are getting a little more in the weeds about it, it might. But just for the sake of everything, let's go through. And I'm not finding a constraint. There we go. Maybe they still haven't found a constraint. Yeah, it's over constrained. So it's back to normal now. I just didn't like that 180 degrees. Okay. So let's uncheck construction, hit escape to get off the coincident. And at this point, we just need to draw our rectangles. The whole reason to use the construction line should be to assist us with having it already, for the most part, constrained. I think it wants to know the width of this, and so the sketch dimension. If we were to come over here to left click and hold, we got to try and find just the line. Then come over here and find just this line. We can left click and hold, find that line that we're looking for. And then if we say it's 8, boom shakalaka, it's constrained. I don't understand why when we go up here to create center rectangle, and we come over to this line, as we go to find the midline, there's a triangle, and go up. Like when I come down to this line and I hit 0.3, I hit 5, it should already be constrained. Not sure why it's not, to be honest, but it's easy to fix it. So we'll go off the middle here one more time. 0.3, 5. I'm double clicking enter just to get out of that. And one more time. Center rectangle. Bring it down. 0.3, 5. Enter. We can sketch dimensions. Let's go from this center point to this center point, and it's 2. And then we can do it one more time from that point to that point. And that's 2. All right. Now, as you can see, some of those blue lines are there. I'm just going to leave them. I don't believe it'll cause us an issue. And now we have everything set up for how we'd like. I know that looks like a jumbled mess. There is a lot going on. But as you get used to this, you'll kind of see how you're all together. So let's go ahead and finish our sketch. And let's start extruding. And as we extrude, we're going to do things Uh, I do them in a certain order just to keep myself organized. And then I'm also going to, as we extrude, the operation is going to be really important and some of these other settings. So let's go through all of this. So we're going to extrude this forward by 0.75. And I know it's forward because it's a positive value. Um, and that's the way that the arrow is pointing. So if the arrow is pointing the opposite direction, if you're looking face on, you may not see the arrow, obviously. The arrow's right here, but we're looking straight on, so it doesn't show us. So we have to left click and hold this cube in the corner, get our angle appropriate. I always use a mouse. Trackpad's kind of annoying, but you can do it. And then I don't want it to join. I want it to be a new body. Now, it said new body before I entered a value. So when you enter the value, it's automatically going to kick you back into join. So new body is what we want. We're going to hit OK. We lost our sketch. So you always lose your sketch after you extrude even one piece of that sketch. So we'll go back to our sketches, enable that particular sketch. It looks like the original building sketch was enabled. I just disabled it. You can go back and forth. That's extrude. We're going to extrude the next piece. Sometimes it's easier to just look straight on. So this is going to be the part where it's actually inserts into my wood laser cut portion. So I want it to come up and meet the the trim, and I also want it to go back 2 millimeters into the 3 millimeter wood that I use. And I am using potentially 1.5 millimeters, so maybe I don't need to, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything. So at this point, I want it to go in two directions. I want it to come towards us, towards the trim and be flush, and then I want it to go backwards. So we're going to start at the profile plane. That's where the sketch was drawn. That's what the profile plane is. We're going to go to two sides. We're going to change this to 0.75. This should come forward. It's not. It's actually the backwards. So, side two. I don't know why. Oh, there's side one. All right. So this one should be 2, and then this one should be 0.75. And if we go to new body, we can hit OK. That one we might have been able to join, but I didn't want it to join with the exterior wall. I can come up here and turn off body 1, and then it would default join to the only other body that's visible. But for sake of most of these items, I like to make them all just new bodies uh, within reason here. So we have our trim, we have our insert, and so now what we need to do is do one of these windows. And so we're going to do at least the framing. So let's extrude one more time. We're going to select this top window. For this one, typically I believe the top windows are the most forward facing window. And so we're going to do 0.5. It comes forward a little bit. We could make it offset a little bit. And so sometimes I'll do that depending on your preference. So let's do that just so you can see what that looks like. So currently, if I do new body and I do 0.5, this is what it looks like. So it's not bad. It has some depth to it, but not a lot. We're talking about 0.25 millimeter depth. So maybe I'm splitting hairs here with a very small case. But I'm going to go back since it is parametric. We're going to actually do an offset plane. And I want it to be offset by negative 0.5. So it's going to actually sit into the window a bit more. And then I want to extrude the the other piece here. This is the grid. I have to select all of those. I could have trimmed them up, but it's just as easy to click them. I want to offset this as well. So we'll do offset 0. Let's say 25. And then I need some type of distance. We could say 0.3. And it looks like my offset needs to be a negative 0.25. And it doesn't look like it sits in there really well. So what we probably should do is offset this by negative 0.5. And then we'll make the distance 0.25. Now you can see how this is sitting towards the back portion of that window. That's likely just fine. If you wanted it to be on the front face of this, we could do that as well. And so it could be offset by 0. Let's see, negative 0.025, and it's now on the front face. I can hit join. I'm going to do new body just for sake of doing that this whole time. Now it's on the front face of that. That's okay. Sometimes I like the grid to sit in to it. So parametric, we can just re-enable that, change our offset back to negative 0.5, and then hit OK. And now it's the grid is inset into the window frame. All right, so let's do the bottom one. And same thing, extrude. Now this time I want this to be offset by -1. And the reason is that this window is going to be sliding up and down behind this initial window. So -1, and then it's going to be 0.5. New body. As you can tell, it is now behind it. Then, for sake of just being odd, I'm going to select the inside grid, and we're going to make this on the front face of this window. Nobody would ever do this, but that's what I'm going to do. And then we'll do offset negative. I think I did what, -1. So let's do negative 0.75. The distance is going to be 0.5, 0.25. Now that's flush on the front. All right. So now what we have is a window. Let's turn off our sketch so we can actually see what it looks like. And twirling the other way is just so cumbersome when I left click that. So there we go. We have our window. We have our window frames around it. And so now what everyone's been waiting for, how do you adjust this parametric and adjust and move it, make one window, but into a couple of variations. So I want to combine some of these bodies. And so what I'm going to do is take body 7 and I want body 6. So body 7 and body 6, I'm going to hold shift and select body 6, left click it. I'm going to come up here to combine. Now I've already selected those two. So it already has a target body and a tool body. I don't care about keeping the tools. That'll be something we maybe play with in the future. I want it to join. I don't want it to cut, and I don't want it to intersect. I also don't want a new component. I just want it to combine those two bodies into one. Hit OK. As you can see, body 6 went away. We have body 7. It's that whole inner window. Same thing with body 5. Hold shift, click body 4, combine, and then OK. So now I have a top body, a bottom body, and then for the sake of just keeping things together, body 3 and body 2 really should be together. That's the whole insert piece. Once again, same process. So now I have the frame, I have the top window, and I have the bottom window. Now, if I turn the original body back on, it's in place. That's fantastic. If I wanted to 3D print this as one piece, I could, but I don't like printing the whole walls. So for that purpose, let's go ahead, and I guess I made this 8 different pieces here that fits into the window as opposed to 3. So nice. That was a happy accident, but I created an additional window for 3D printing. So here we go. Let's grab body 7, body 5, body 3, and I'm going to hold shift and click those 3. And then we're going to go up to move and copy. And I'm going to create a copy by selecting the check mark. If you don't select that, it'll move the original item and not do what you're wanting it to do. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to create the copy over here in space because it doesn't mess around with this. I can have multiple little bodies or items, and as long as your computer can handle the additional items, you can always just uncheck them and hide them. But I find just kind of editing all within the one piece and having my multiple pieces on the side is just easy. So that's why I do that. All right. So how are we going to adjust this now? So now we have our one window. I'm going to select the top one. You almost never see the top one. At least I don't, or think about it as being in any other position. So that one's just going to stay there. I could technically make that one body with the other piece, but for the sake of it, I leave it all separate so I can go back and change it, and everything's just kind of exactly where I want it. I don't want to lock myself down. Even though you don't have to. Anyways, I digress. So the bottom portion is body 8, and so I want to click move. And for this time, I'm not going to click create copy. I'm going to leave that unchecked. Move object is bodies. I've already selected it, so that's why it knows my selection is there. And then I can use these arrow keys, or not arrow keys, these arrows in the system to move it towards me, left or right, or up and down. So I'm going to do up or down. It's going to stay in its exact position otherwise. And so this is the original. So what I would do is I don't care about the original as much because I already have an original on the building. But for this piece, we're going to go up and I'm going to make a partially open window. We're going to hit OK. I'm then going to left click and select all of it. I'm going to move and make a copy. Now, you could probably export this as it is, but I like to make multiple versions. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to select this body here. I'm going to hit move, and I'm going to move that up. Didn't want to do it. Let's try that again. So let's find that lower body. I'm going to hit move. I'm going to raise it, and it's going to be like an all the way open window, or for the most part open. I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to left click and hold over my first window. I'm going to combine it. Hit OK. Go over my second window. I'm going to combine it. Hit OK. And so now these are just one body. So body 11, body 9, body 7, body 5, body 3. As you can see, those have not been all combined. So I'll go through body 3 through 7, hit combine, hit OK. So now I have a closed, partially opened, and a, for the most part, fully open window. At this point, I go to utilities. I go to make. We'll go to STL. I think binary is the preferred one. Unit type, I use millimeters. So that's what my 3D printer uses. So I want my my 3D slicer to also see the millimeters, so it goes over perfectly. I can send it to a 3D print utility, but I just put it on a flash drive, so I don't need to output it. Refinement, you can do various levels. Medium, for the most part, works for me. And then I hit OK. At this point, you can see where my files are. Here on the list, users, blah, blah, blah. I want to change the name of this to window open. And then save it to computer. And then you do the same thing with the other ones. Select my other body, export it. This is going to be window, we can say half, save, and then lastly, our other body, which is body 7, and this is just window closed. We can hit save. So here we go. We have had 3 windows after designing just one, and we have variations. And so when we go back to our other building, when you start getting into gooseneck lamps or lights, you get into this vent. You get into doing some what's the word? This is a drain, but if you wanted to do gutters, you can set up one file. And then as you do those gutters, maybe you make a gutter and it looks great for what you're working with, but you need it to be a little longer, a little shorter for a different building. You just go in there and you change the values. And so if we went back into this and we went to our original sketch of the window, now obviously that looks like a hot mess, because there's just a lot of things there. But if we were to change the parameter and we were to say, let's add one, window, can't have spaces, grid, and we can keep it there. The expression we'll say is 0.3. Now we can go up here and type in window, grid, and just for sake of keeping this a lot easier, we're going to keep that there, and we're going to finish our sketch. And so obviously nothing's changed at that point. Okay. Now if we go to modify, change parameters, and we move this out of our way so we can see, what if we change this to 0.5? All of a sudden, that one window grid, if we did it on all of them, is now thicker. And so you can go back and you can adjust windows and make even more variations if you want. You could also obviously set the width of the horizontal one to match. And so if all of those are all based off window grid, you now have a very small windows, thicker windows, and you can do that for everything you do in Fusion. I think that's the part that has sold me on it compared to other places. So if you want to double check or change the window grid back, you do have to click off of it, just so you know, to click back to it. But 0.3, enter, and our window is done. And I believe if we go to modify and change parameters, because those were copies, it may actually adjust those as well. So let's change this to zero point 0.5. And as you can tell, even the copies. Thank you so much for joining in. And if you have any comments, please leave them below, and we'll continue on with some more content in the near future. Thanks for joining in.